What's going on, everybody? It's another hump day. It's another edition of Giants Collective. Joined today by Anthony over there, Chris down there. Obviously, the New York Giants have now made it to a 53-man roster. And before we get into all that good stuff, always want to say thank you for tuning in. Greatly appreciate it. You can do us a favor. Thumbs up helps out the stream huge. So if you like what you see here, just give us a little like. That certainly helps the algorithm on YouTube. Big shout out to SeatGeek, as always, for sponsoring the show. Greatly appreciate SeatGeek. Use that promo code Giants Collective. It's in the link. It's in the description below. You get $20 off your first SeatGeek purchase. You can check us out on Amazon, Spotify, Apple, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. You can check out Giants Collective. We're also on Instagram and TikTok. And if you want to become a member, you just click that join button. You get the monthly member messages, names in the outro, and you get the cool emojis, which, again, you'll want during the regular season, which is not too far away at all. It seems like it's forever, though. I mean, it's a week and a half. We'll have football a week from tomorrow. It's two teams we absolutely hate, but at least we will have some football. So no football being played this week, but obviously the New York Giants cut their team down to their final 53-man roster. Anthony, was there any surprises that you saw? Was there somebody you saw got cut and was like, wow, that was kind of a shocker, or did it kind of go the way you thought it would?
I was a little surprised to see Elijah Chapman get cut. He had a really strong summer, I thought, playing two positions, playing defensive tackle and fullback. He was the only fullback technically on the Giants roster. And I think it's strange that the Giants don't choose to carry any fullback. It kind of eliminates an entire formation from their playbook. How are they going to play out of the I formation? Are they going to put a tight end back there? Are you still going to get the same amount of effectiveness as a blocker from a tight end as you would from a true fullback or from Elijah Chapman, that big, almost 300-pound fullback? So I thought Elijah Chapman had a strong case for it. I understand he doesn't make much of an impact on first and second downs. He's very undersized. He's not good against the run. But I thought that he showed a lot as a pass rusher during training camp. And I thought during the preseason, showing that he has some value as a fullback gave him a good chance at a roster spot. So I was a little surprised that he didn't make it.
Chris, what about you? Is there any shock you saw that said, wow, I can't believe that he got cut from the team?
I don't know if I want to use the term shock. No, I don't think there were any shocks. I thought the kick returner should have made it, but thankfully we were able to stash him on the practice squad. I understand why they didn't keep Chapman, even though I expected him to make the roster. I had him on my final 53-man roster. I think most people did, especially when, like Anthony said, you saw that they were starting to utilize him on both sides of the ball. I thought that there was a very good chance he was going to make the roster, but I think the reason he didn't is kind of what Anthony hinted out. I think you look at this defense the last couple of years, they've been horrible against the run. He's not known to be strong against the run. Who is? DJ Davidson. He's on this roster because of the way that I think he played. He actually played really well in at least the last two preseason games. Looked like he slimmed down a bit. He was creating pressure up the middle. And I think the Giants said, well, we need a guy that could be a true nose tackle and a run stuffer. So they elected to go with him over a guy like Chapman. Ultimately, that's what I think happened. And then with the tight end, some people were surprised. And leading up into the day or two before it, I think we all agreed there was a very good chance Bellinger wasn't going to make the team. I don't think any of us thought that he wasn't one of the top four tight ends on the roster. We thought it was more financially based why they were going to decide to do that. So Dolchich didn't end up making the team, which I was leaning he would, and they were going to let Bellinger go for money purposes. But they ended up keeping Bellinger, which I'm completely fine with. Anthony mentioned who could play fullback in sub packages. He might be a guy that could do it. I remember they actually played him in certain sub packages the last couple of years as a fullback. So I could see that, and I'm glad he's back. I think he is one of the better tight ends on this roster. I just didn't think it was going to work out. So I don't know if I want to call that a surprise. And I know your guy's back, Turbo. We were able to stash him on the practice squad. Hopefully he gets an opportunity at some point this year to come up and make an impact. We'll have to wait and see. But no real shockers. A couple of guys that I was probably rooting for to make the team that didn't quite crack the 53. But I was glad that the three guys that I was at least moderately surprised didn't make the team, we were able to get back on the practice squad. And Tommy DeVito ends up with the Patriots. How about that?
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. I agree. I don't think there's anything shocking. Again, I thought Bellinger, like you just said, Chris, I thought more for financial purposes, not because he wasn't one of the best tight ends, but he gives the Giants the most cap relief, and I don't believe he'll be back next year. So I was surprised that they didn't cut him and keep Dolchich. Although you look at Dolchich, I mean, he's had injury issues most of his career, and he hasn't been a great tight end, but he certainly was really good in preseason. I mean, I'm pretty sure he caught a touchdown from every one of the quarterbacks, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe he didn't catch one from Winston, but I know he caught one from Dart, he caught one from Russ, and he caught one from Tommy DeVito. And again, I thought maybe the Giants would go with 4 backs and go with 3 tight ends. Again, I don't want to say that was a shock because it could have won either anyway there. And people are talking about cutting Evan Neal. I don't think they would have got anything out of cutting Evan Neal. You don't save anything anyway, and you're not going to get rid of a 7th overall pick. Joe Schoen doesn't normally like to get rid of his draft picks, which is why I think Fedoni made it. Although I think we were all rooting for Fedoni. He flashed in preseason. He looked really good, and I don't think you want to get rid of a young athletic tight end like that. He showed really good hands, and he definitely was a great target in the red zone for a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. So I was glad that they kept him. Obviously, I wanted Turbo to make the team. I like him a lot. And, I understand that he's not like the most patient runner. He's got to learn how to find a lane. He's got to learn how to be a running back. He looked good in the screen game, obviously. But one thing he has is speed. And I think I'm always preferential these guys that run really fast because I don't think you can't teach that. You can teach other things. You can coach them up. So I was glad he made the practice squad. I was afraid he wasn't going to make it just because of that straight line speed. And some guys may just say, let's just take a shot and see what he does. But I'm glad that they got most of those guys back on the practice squad. I'm glad Chapman's back. I loved watching him as a fullback. I thought that was awesome. He was out there mauling people. But again, was he worth a roster spot to the Giants? Because, as you both mentioned, weak against their run game, which has been our weakness for a couple of years on that interior defensive line, and how often are you really going to use him as a fullback? Because it doesn't seem like Brian Daboll likes fullbacks, and we don't run I formation, which I wish they would do a little bit more. I know a few years ago, Chris and I would always cheer when they actually came out in the I formation because we never saw it. I don't know what's wrong with having a lead blocker back there for a running back. I always felt like it was a good thing. So look at Barry Sanders, man. He was always great. First year he had a fullback, he went for 2,000 yards. So there's nothing wrong with having a fullback back there, but I don't think there's any shock. And I'm glad the Giants got most of those guys back. So that was a good thing. You mentioned a moment of silence. Chris, it definitely wasn't a shock. We knew they weren't going to keep 4 quarterbacks. And they knew he probably wasn't going to clear waivers this time because he did play really well in the preseason. And he has shown he can play at the NFL level, maybe not at an elite level, but he's definitely a serviceable backup without question. So what are your thoughts about Tommy D going about a couple hundred miles east?
Hey, I'm happy for him. I mean, by all accounts, he seems like a nice guy, good teammate. The Giants players seem to love him. Remember Barkley when he was playing, absolutely loved him. All the players on this year's team seem to love him. So I'm glad he's going to get an opportunity. Well, I don't know if you want to call it an opportunity, but I'm glad he's been rostered. He's clearly the 3rd string quarterback there behind Drake May and Dobbs, who's had some success at the NFL level as well. But maybe he gets an opportunity at some point to see the field and get to showcase his skill set, and maybe he grows as a quarterback. I think some people overhyped that last preseason performance. At the end of the day, he's going up against an XFL. It's basically an XFL game at that point. All those guys are going to be cut. But he looked good, and a lot of people were saying we should keep the 4 quarterbacks. Ultimately, the Giants can't do that. They're not good enough to roster 4 quarterbacks. We need every roster spot we could get. I mentioned it when you asked the question on Twitter. Like, you do something like that. Remember how we didn't have a capable punt returner? Well, things like that happen when you roster 4 quarterbacks. It's an unnecessary roster spot. But I think it's a sign of improving times when, for a change, the Giants actually have players that they're cutting that other teams are looking to claim. That speaks to what we've talked about on this show for several weeks, that the depth on this team is starting to significantly improve.
Anthony, what do you think about Tommy Cutlets going to Clam Chowder City over there in Boston?
I mean, I'm happy for him. I think him making a 53-man roster is awesome, and I want to see him succeed. I think, it's a tough situation. I'm sure he would love to stay in New Jersey and stay with the New York Giants, but unfortunately, like we all know, the Giants have too much quarterback talent. But that's kind of the thing, right? We can say that the Giants have too much quarterback talent to hold on to Tommy DeVito. That's a really good problem to have, and that's something that we haven't been able to say for years, considering Tommy DeVito has started for the Giants over the last couple of seasons. So this is a good thing. Again, a good problem to have when you have to make a tough decision on your 4th quarterback. And with Tommy DeVito, Is he going to make an impact for the Patriots or the Giants? Probably neither. If he's in the game for either one of those teams, those seasons are turned sideways anyway. So it's not really something to lose sleep about. Again, at the end of the day, I'm just going to look back on his time with the Giants as a pretty dark era for Big Blue, but fond memories when he won those games and he had some success with the team as the hometown hero. I think the one thing that we do need to do, though, as fans, not me, but as many fans, need to move on from the fact that he won those games in 2023. Some fans are still really bitter and they're very happy that he's leaving the Giants. Guys, he won those games. Sure, Jaden Daniels is not on the Giants. Drake May is not on the Giants. Malik Neighbors is. Abdul Carter is. Jackson Dart is. Those guys are not on the Giants. All those guys are not on the Giants if Tommy DeVito doesn't win those games in 2023. You don't have Malik Neighbors. I get the argument for it, but it was so long ago. Move on. It's not worth losing sleep over.
At the end of the day, if Jackson Dart works out, nobody gives a shit.
Exactly.
And when Brian Dable's the quarterback guru, right? That's why he has this job to begin with. Well, we're going to find out if he's a guru. He got to pick his guy. Jackson Dart looks good in the preseason. Why are we living in the past? And I love Drake May. I think Drake May's talent's through the roof, but he hasn't proven anything in the NFL. He's proven as much in the NFL as far as I'm concerned, or just about as much in the NFL as far as I'm concerned as Jackson Dart has. So let's see what we got at the quarterback position. Like you said, why people living in the past? That's stupid. That's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Tommy was a nice story. Anthony, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the 2023 season was absolutely terrible. It wasn't as bad as last year. And that was because of Tommy DeVito. And sure, the Giants won some games and they ended up picking sixth instead of, first or second. And it was fun while it lasted. It was a nice story. It was nice to win games. It was nice to actually see some excitement on the New York Giants because we hadn't seen it that whole year. We didn't see it last year. It was a different vibe, an aura, as these young people say. It was just different. And it was fun watching that. Like I said, a kid that came out of nowhere, was able to win some games at the NFL level, and good for him. He was very popular for 3 weeks to a month. I mean, everybody was doing this, and you had his agent, you had the Cutlets, and yet it was just, and it's 3 Italian guys. I mean, it was a little fun for us too. Culturally, we enjoyed that stuff. But to your point, Anthony, I don't understand the hatred this guy gets. And I don't know how many times I have to remind people. You do understand, before he won those 3 games, I'm pretty sure he lost like 30-6 to the Raiders and 49-17 to the Cowboys. And when the Giants won those 3 games, they want to blame DeVito and, he ruined the Giants. He fucking screwed. They did this and I hate him. Rest in peace. Good riddance. Good. The defense forced 13 turnovers in those 3 games. I said, if you want to blame anybody for winning those games, blame the defense. The Giants beat the woeful Patriots 10-7 because they missed a field goal at the end of regulation. The Giants, Tommy DeVito didn't dominate that game. Tommy DeVito didn't turn the ball over 6 times against Washington. Sam Howell turned the ball over 6 times against Washington. He had a nice game, Tommy DeVito did, against Washington. But my God, they turned the ball over 6 times, and Green Bay turned it over 4 times. And DeVito had 1 touchdown pass and threw for 150 yards. Like, I don't know why the hatred. I guess they just associate this with, oh God, we missed Jaden Daniels. But yes, I couldn't agree more. We have Malik Neighbors, we have Abdul Carter, and we have Jackson Dart, who looks amazing. We'll see how he is, but he's going to have a year to sit on the bench. You have a year to learn, well, most of the year to learn. I feel like he'll play at some point this year. But you can't look back at 2023 and go, oh, what might have been, right? Because people do the same thing at Barkley. Oh, should have never let Barkley go. Yeah, he went to the Eagles, which sucks, but we weren't winning games at Barkley here. And how do you know Jaden Daniels with the New York Giants, the way they were set up, was going to do what he did in Washington? You don't. It's the fallacy of the predetermined outcome. You have no clue what Jaden Daniels will be. Is he ultra talented? Yes. Do I like Jaden Daniels? Absolutely. Do I think he's a top 5 talent in the NFL already? Absolutely. With Washington. That don't mean he'd be that here. And you can sit there and say whatever you want, but who's he throwing to if he's a Giant? There's no Malik Neighbors on this team if Jaden Daniels is here. So who's his receiver? Wandale Robinson, Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins? Who's our guy? So I agree. You got to let it go. Tommy DeVito, the best of luck to him. Not upset about it. I get that it's business, and He's not going to make a great impact here. He wasn't anyway in New England. If he is making an impact, it's because they're down to the third string quarterback. But I just don't understand why people hate on the kid. It's pretty crazy, if you ask me. Another thing I want to talk about is our wide receiving core. I looked at that. People are mad that Bo Collins got the nod, I guess. I don't know who else was going to get the nod. I thought Bo Collins looked the best of all these receivers. But Anthony, are you worried at all about the depth or lack thereof of our wide receiving core?
I'm a little worried. I think when you look at it, it's a little bit of an unproven group outside of the big three, which is Malik Neighbors, Wan'Dale Robinson, Darius Slayton. When you get past those guys, you're talking about a receiving room that has Jaylen Hyatt, who hasn't proven anything. If anything, he's proven that he's got a drops problem. That's all we saw in the preseason. And he's also been unable to prove that he can be available and stay healthy. So a lot of question marks with Jaylen Hyatt. Bo Collins is an undrafted rookie. Yes, he had a lot of bright moments in the summer and in the preseason. He also did drop a couple passes in the preseason, and he also doesn't have NFL game day experience. So that's a question mark. And then who even is the sixth receiver at this point? It was Gunnar Olszewski, but they waived him. So I think, do they even have six right now?
They're
Do they
bringing
just
him
have
back
the
from
five?
what I read on Twitter. It was just like a move, I guess, to be able to get those new waiver acquisitions.
Yeah, so then they only have 5 receivers on the roster right now officially, right?
Yeah, but the speculation at least is, I forgot, I think it was Dan Duggan that said it, that they're going to bring Gunnar back on the roster.
Yeah, well, even in that case, Gunnar's he's not really a wide receiver. He's not really a guy that you want to factor into that group with the receiver depth. So it kind of reinforces the point. They've got 2 backup receivers. One of them is Jaylen Hyatt. One of them is an undrafted rookie in Bo Collins. Should they bring another wide receiver in? Probably. Now, whether that's Kendrick Bourne, who got released today, whether that's Gabe Davis, who they've been flirting with for the last 2 months but unable to sign. I don't know if it's Odell, who I saw Greg said in the chat. Maybe it could be OBJ. I don't know. There could be several players out there, but I do think they need to keep looking around and finding somebody to add to this wide receiver group because, again, it's a lot of unproven talent and then a special teams player. So they should definitely try and work on the position, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's, but when you think about our positional groups in terms of depth, it's probably our least deep position, or it's among. I know we only have 3 safeties, right? Well, we just added a 4th, and I actually like our top 3 safeties. Matter of fact, this safety duo might be the best safety duo we've had in a long time for the Giants, or at least on paper, it looks like it has potential to be, because I think Tyler Nubin could break out, and I think Holland's already a very good safety. So I'm looking forward to that safety duo this year. But yeah, I think when you look at the positional groups, as much as I love Malik Neighbors and as much as he elevates that wide receiving core, it's incredibly thin. We don't have a true number 2, at least for like an elite offense, from an elite offense standpoint. I like Slayton. I think Slayton's a productive receiver, and I'm glad he's back. But after you get past him, Wan'Dale is what he is. He's kind of a Cole Beasley. That's basically what he is, but he's not a guy that could do a whole lot of things outside of playing in the slot, picking up key third downs. You're not going to line him up outside for the majority of his snaps with the New York Giants. And then the depth, I mean, like you said, Collins right now is our 5th receiver. So, yeah, I understand, fans are a little bit worried about that. But what I'll say is, if we're not going to be deep at one positional group, I'd rather be that than pass rush, offensive line. So you're never going to have a perfect roster. But maybe they will, scour the market and pick somebody up. But I hope Smith-Marsette makes this roster when all is said and done. I'm glad he's back on the practice squad. He's the type of player, at least in my opinion, and again, it was a limited sample size. For the first time in forever, we saw somebody return a kick for a touchdown. But even you take that play outside of it. I remember calling the games with you, Baddog, the last 5-6 games last year. Every time the guy got the ball in a kick return, he was doing good. He was doing damage. And I think a player like that, especially with the new rules, could be very valuable for the New York Giants. So I hope they find a way to roster him. And I was actually a little bit upset. Not that I was fuming. It's a kick returner at the end of the day. But I wasn't happy with the decision to keep Gunnar over him. And I understand Gunnar had a good preseason. But kind of like Bobby Skinner said on Twitter, at the end of the day, Gunnar, you'll be lucky if he gets 100 yards all year. In my opinion, you take the better returner. And I thought the better returner was Smith-Marsette. So I'm glad they brought him back on the practice squad. But, yeah, we could certainly use a little bit more depth at the position. But it's not something I'm going to go nuts about.
It's a great point, the kick returner, because when we do the games, we talk about hidden yardage a lot of times. And these things that don't show up in the box score, when you have a kick returner, a punt returner, where maybe the punter hits a line drive and the guy doesn't run up to make the catch, and the ball bounces at the 35, and then it rolls 20 yards down to the 15. I mean, you just lost 20 yards of field position because your guy didn't run up and make the kick, or a guy that runs backwards and loses a couple of yards as opposed to, fair catching the ball, or he bobbles it, and it just ends up costing you yards. As we know, man, the Giants the last couple of years, and their really lousy offense has a lot to do with this, but our field position is always terrible. It seems like we're always starting inside the 20 or around the 20, the 15, the 10, all this stuff, because when we punt the ball away, we're kicking it from our own 10. And in essence, the teams are getting into the 35 to 40-yard line. So they're already, winning the field position game. And it's tough when your offense is lackluster. It's really difficult for an offense like we had in previous years to go 90 yards for a touchdown as opposed to, say, 65. So I feel like you need a really good kick returner because, like you mentioned, Chris, this guy's not going to make a big impact in the receiving game, but in the kick return game, definitely could, especially with the new rules. So I was surprised myself, but they went with Gunner, and I don't know if that's because Gunner was a better receiver and we don't have any receivers.
He's also probably a better punt returner, Gunner. So they may have factored that in as well. They may have felt collectively between the punt and kick return, they may have felt more comfortable with Gunner. But I thought Marset was way too electric to even risk somebody else picking up, because especially with how important I think the kick returners are going to be this year. It's going to be very important. You watch these preseason games, they're all kicking the ball short. They're not going in the end zone. A guy like that could flip the field. And for a team that we all agree, I think is going to be at least somewhat limited offensively, that's important. Like you said, the hidden yardage. So I'm very happy we were able to get him back and put him on the practice squad, though, because I do think he could be very valuable to this team.
You mentioned Wan'Dale Robinson. We know what Wan'Dale is. He hasn't really – he's shown some flashes of being a really good receiver. But, Anthony, I know we talked about this, as a group. We talked about this probably, I'd say, early in the, summer, maybe late spring. How much better could Wan'Dale Robinson be with a guy like Russell Wilson, who's not throwing the ball behind him on a slant and not delivering it late where he has to sit there and wait for the ball, but can throw it on time and allow Wan'Dale Robinson to work underneath and get the yak yardage? That is why we drafted him, for that purpose underneath. How big do you think that impact is going to be on what Wan'Dale Robinson can be to the Giants?
Yeah, I've banged this drum countless times. I think this is going to be majorly impactful for Wan'Dale Robinson. The upgrades at quarterback. Having a guy who can hit you in stride and hit you on time changes everything for a wide receiver. There were so many times last year where we saw Wan'Dale Robinson slowing down to make a catch, or coming back to the football and now no longer having the ability to turn upfield and create yards after the catch. I think about that game against Dallas at home, where Wan'Dale had a lot of targets and a lot of receptions in that game, but didn't have a lot of yardage. And a lot of those plays were quick throws out to the flat, where if that ball's on time, he's turning upfield and he's gaining 8 yards, but instead he's getting tackled for a gain of 2 yards. And then you're talking about 3rd and 8 versus 3rd and 2. It's a huge difference in terms of what you're able to call from your play sheet and what you're able to do with your offense in those situations. So I think that having a quarterback is going to have a big impact on all of these receivers. We've talked about how we all feel as though Malik Neighbors can have a truly explosive year. Chris and I have made the prediction for the Triple Crown for Malik Neighbors, and I'm standing firm with that. Darius Slayton, I think, Bad Dog, you said there's a chance he could go for 1,000 yards this year. And obviously Wan'Dale Robinson, we all think he's going to be better. All of that is just because the Giants upgraded at quarterback. It's not even like Russell Wilson's a top 10 guy. He's not the guy who used to throw for 40 touchdowns in a year. He's not the guy who could lead Seattle to a Super Bowl at this point in his career, but he's competency and he is an upgrade. And when you're going from league worst quarterback play to even average quarterback play, you're eliminating so many flaws in that game. You're eliminating, to the extent at least, poor pocket presence. You're eliminating turnover proneness. You're eliminating poor ball placement and an inability to get the ball out on time and in stride. All of those things are being eliminated. And now this Giants offense can run way more smoothly. And a guy like Wan'Dale Robinson having an ability to be pretty dangerous after the catch, as we saw him flash at times, he could really spark this year and put up a lot more yardage. So probably less targets, probably less receptions, but I would bank on him at least crossing the 700-yard mark and definitely having a much better season with a lot more effectiveness after the catch in 2025.
Chris, how important is that for Wan'Dale to have a guy like Russ who can throw the ball on time, as opposed to having him slow down in the middle of the field to make it? Because we do the games And you'll see 3rd down and 7, and it's a 4-yard slant, but he has to sit there and wait, so he's tackled 3 yards short of the line of scrimmage, or the line of gain, rather. How big of a difference is it to have a guy that can actually hit him in stride and let him run after the catch?
Of course, especially a receiver like him. A lot of the times you're going to need a quarterback that can throw with anticipation with a guy like a Wan'Dale Robinson, because they're going to be short routes that you got to get out before he breaks his, makes his break on the route, because you're trying to pick up a quick 3rd and 5 when the defense is sending an all-out blitz. So, of course, it's important to have a quarterback that could throw with better anticipation than Daniel Jones did. I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have on Wan'Dale. I don't know if he's going to have the amount of catches that he had last year. I think he had like 90 catches or whatever it was. I'm going to continue to say, though, I think Darius Slayton is going to be, of the receivers outside of Neighbors, I think Slayton is going to have the most impactful year for this Giants receiving core this year. I'm excited for Slayton. I don't think he's an elite wide receiver too by any stretch of the imagination, but this is the first year he's had a quarterback outside of Daniel Jones, outside of the other quarterbacks that we've thrown in there the last couple of years since he's been in the league for what he's been in there since Jones. So for 5 years, now he gets Russell Wilson. He's got Malik Neighbors on the other side. He's got a good play caller. I think Slayton's going to have a pretty big impact in this offense this year. I don't know if I'll go as far to say 1,000, but I think he's going to have his best year as a pro this year. I think Darius Slayton's going to have a good year.
Yeah, I definitely thought he can get 1,000. I mean, it's an average of 59 yards a game. That would give him 1,003. I definitely think he can do that. You think about all the attention that Malik Neighbors is going to get on the other side, and Darius Slayton, probably doesn't run the 4.39 he did, 7 years ago or 6 years ago coming out of Auburn, but he's still a very good deep threat. And obviously he's had problems with drops as well, but he's been the most consistent guy on this team. He's been a consummate professional through all of it. He took a pay cut to stay with the New York Giants, and who does that? It's not like he was taking a pay cut to stay with a good team. But he obviously wants to be here. I feel like he's a good locker room presence for the young wide receivers. He leads by example. And I just feel like he deserves to have a big year. And I feel like a guy like Russ that will throw the ball deep, because Slayton has a good route tree. It's just none of these quarterbacks we've had in the last, 5-6 years has thrown the ball down the field. None of them. So none of them have been able to showcase their deep ball ability or, their deep threat ability. But you were going to have that this year without question. We've seen it in the preseason. And Russ don't have a rag arm. I mean, the pass to Bo Collins wasn't an 8-yard slant for 80 yards. That shit was 60 yards in the air. So the old man can still throw the ball deep down the field, right in stride. So I am excited for Slayton. I think that he could be definitely a 1,000-yard guy. And, I agree with both of you guys. I think Malik Neighbors is due to just have a monster season, because this guy can do everything. And now he's got a quarterbacks that don't mind throwing the ball deep. So while we don't have a lot of depth at receiver, I do think our top 3 receivers are pretty good. And I think the quarterback play is going to make them even better. But with that said, if there's another wide receiver, I bring this up all the time. Any possibility Odell Beckham's Giant?
No. I know everybody likes to dream and him coming back. I think that ship has sailed. I know Shane flirted with it. I think it was a year or two ago. They brought him in for a visit. No, I mean, I'll never say never. But I would be very surprised if he did. I wouldn't expect him to have much of a role. I don't think he's very good anymore. I think he's, I think he's on his way out. Yeah.
But I thought Odell would have made sense in the summer. Kind of how the Giants had Allen Robinson on their roster throughout training camp last year. He was never going to make the 53-man roster. He's not the Pro Bowl talent that he used to be, but he was great in mentoring Malik Neighbors. Neighbors has credited Allen Robinson with a lot of that acclimation that he went through last season as a rookie. So if the Giants were going to bring in Odell, doing it in July would have made sense, where he can kind of do what Allen Robinson did, be a mentor and kind of demonstrate to everybody, hey, listen, I've been at the top of this league. I've been here in the Big Apple. This is the wisdom and the knowledge that I can share with you before I inevitably get cut on 53-man roster cut day, because there's no way that Odell would be rostered over some of these other guys, in my opinion. He doesn't have special teams value. He's had a lot of injuries in his career. Yes, he has a prolific past here with the New York Giants, but we are looking ahead to the future now. It's a new era, and the Giants are trying to be competitive this year to save jobs and to just be competitive. I mean, to be a competent football team once again. So picking up a guy because he used to be good on this team 10 years ago now is not going to go in line with, moving ahead into that competitive and competent nature. So I would love to see OBJ retire a New York Giant. I just don't think he's going to see another Giants game day in uniform.
Do you think the Giants will sign another receiver, Anthony?
Yeah, I do. I don't know who it's going to be, but I think they will. I know it's awesome that Bo Collins made the roster. That's really exciting. I don't know if that's truly going to hold. If they were to release him, I have a good feeling he clears waivers. He probably makes it back to their practice squad, and then they shed some of the fat on the practice squad for Bo Collins. They probably want him around in case they do need to call him up on game days. But realistically, if this were Giants versus Commanders this Sunday afternoon, let's imagine that Darius Slayton got banged up for a quarter. Do you really want Bo Collins out there in week 1 of the regular season taking those snaps? Or would you want a guy who has starting experience, has played in a playoff game, has been in an NFL game before? That's what you're going to want on week 1. So for me, I would honestly probably waive Bo Collins and go sign a Gabe Davis or a Kendrick Bourne or one of these other receivers that has legitimate starting experience, because I think the Giants do need somebody with that experience and who can make an immediate impact on this roster in case one of their starting 3 receivers does go down with an injury early this season.
You mentioned Allen Robinson. It's funny because I tweeted out, it was maybe a week ago. I asked who do you think is going to be cut out of like Hyatt, Bo Collins, and I think the other one was Montrell Washington. I said, who's the guy that gets cut? And Allen Robinson actually commented on that tweet. I didn't know it was really him. I thought it was just a guy named Allen Robinson until I clicked on the profile. I'm like, what the hell? And all he said was relax. I don't know how do you know what it meant? He just said relax, with the eyeballs. I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but I'm like, he's not a Giant, so that was weird, but it was pretty funny that he commented on that. Chris, do you think the Giants are going to get another wide receiver here?
Maybe. I don't think it's like by any stretch of the imagination, a lock. Maybe they pick up a guy that clears waivers. I don't think it'll be Gabe Davis. I understand why people bring up Gabe Davis constantly for the New York Giants. Obviously, he's from the Buffalo Bills, the same place that Joe Shane and Brian Dable came from. Naturally, they feel he would fit the system relatively well. He seems to be a natural replacement for a guy like Darius Slayton. They have a similar skill set if Darius Slayton were to get hurt. But I feel like if the Giants had interest in Gabe Davis, he would have been here already. He would have been developing chemistry with Russell Wilson. So that's why I don't think they're going to bring him in. I wouldn't be against it. But hey, maybe Gabe Davis is waiting for the perfect opportunity. So, like I said earlier, anything's possible. But I don't expect Gabe Davis to be a New York Giant. Maybe they pick somebody up, but I don't think it would be someone like that.
Do you think that Jaylen Hyatt could? You think he's got anything? Do you have any belief in Jaylen Hyatt anymore, or is that ship now sailed?
No.
He did make the roster.
No, I want him to prove me wrong, though. I'm a Giants fan at the end of the day. Like I'm praying to God he lives up to the potential that a lot of people saw in him when we took him in the 3rd round what was it now, 3 years ago? So I'm gonna be rooting my ass off for him and hoping he's good. But to me, at this point, I just feel like he's a one-trick pony, and even that trick isn't as good as advertised. That's how I feel. Like I feel like that trick, like John Ross, for example, I think was a better one-trick pony than Jaylen Hyatt is. So I hope he proves me wrong, though. I'm not saying that I could obviously look like a fool, but if you're asking me, do I believe in Hyatt at this point? The answer is no. I don't. I don't even think he's a good wide receiver for.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. A lot of people don't have faith in me. Anthony, do you have any faith in Jaylen Hyatt, or is that ship sailed?
That ship has unfortunately sailed for me. The more that I've watched him play, and especially in that preseason game with those drops, the more flaws you see in his game, the less of an ability to project upwards you can see on the football field. I mean, he just can't attack the football for some reason. He always has to body catch it, and that's always been a problem for him. That was one of his flaws coming out of Tennessee. Yes, he was the Blitnikoff Award winner, but a lot of what he did at Tennessee was line up in the slot, run straight down the field, and body catch the football. That's not very translatable to the next level. And while he has certain things he can't teach, like his speed, and he does have certain talents that you would love to be able to mold and maximize, all of that would be great. But if he's not going to do the learning aspect, and he's not going to do the aspect of improving certain flaws within his game, there is no vertical growth to be had. And unfortunately, there just hasn't been any across 3 seasons or 3 preseasons now as we head into his 3rd year. So I don't have a ton of confidence in Jaylen Hyatt, but same as Chris, I am a Giants fan. He's a former 3rd-round pick. He wears blue and red. I want to see him prove me wrong, and I want to see him make an impact this year. Early on this summer, we talked about Russ loves him. Russ wants to throw him the deep ball. Maybe he'll spark something. I'm holding out hope that Russ is right and I'm wrong. Russ knows better than I do anyway, so he probably knows more than me in that regard. So hopefully we do get to see a little bit of something out of Jaylen Hyatt this year, but I don't know. I don't personally see it right now.
Yeah, I must be stubborn because I still feel like he can be that effective home run hitter. I still feel like he can be, your Deshaun Jackson type of guy that has 3 catches, but they're for 103 yards and 2 touchdowns. I still feel like that's there someplace. And maybe when the lights are brightest and he's got Russ throwing him the football down the field, maybe he makes those plays. But I can certainly understand why people have given up on him. He hasn't shown any improvement in 3 years. You thought maybe this preseason he would break out. Supposedly he went on. He added 15 pounds of muscle or whatever, but everybody's still saying he still seems like the very skinny guy. He's not aggressive. I think that's his biggest problem. He don't fight for the ball. He kind of waits for that thing to come to him. Like you said, Anthony, body catches it. So he's not reaching out with his hands. He's letting it come to him. And he doesn't really fight for it. He looks more for, you might have mentioned this, where he's looking for, somebody mentioned it, he looks for the flag before he's looking for the football. And that's not the way you play. You got to be aggressive as a wide receiver. But I'm hoping something clicks because I do feel like he could be a really big threat for us if he could ever figure it out. So hopefully that's the case, but I certainly understand why people have soured on him, and I'm not going to sit there and go, you guys are wrong. He's going to be great because he's shown no improvement. He should have shown some improvement by now. Again, guys, girls, if you're enjoying the show, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up. It helps out. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. Tonight's show is brought to you by SeatGeek. You can use the promo code Giants Collective and you get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Link is in the description below. Let's hear from our sponsor. 95 seconds back with your questions after this. What's up, everybody? Giants training camp is here, and man, do the Giants look different and exciting this year. That's why I'm excited to go and see the New York Giants in person this year at MetLife Stadium. That's also why I want to give the sponsor of today's video, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. There's more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. The NFL is right around the corner, and MLB is in full swing. I love using SeatGeek. I'm thinking about going to that Giants-Chargers game at the end of September. I'm going to go with a couple of buddies. I'm going to go on the SeatGeek app. I'm going to look for 3 tickets. I'm going to click those 3 tickets, and I'm going to sit there. I'm going to scroll around and see which seats I think are best for me, which seats are the best out there, and I'm going to pick the ones I want. It's very easy to use. SeatGeek has your back, and each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know if you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And know that Giants Collective came through for you guys. You can use the code Giants Collective for $20 off of tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase using the promo code Giants Collective. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek, for sponsoring the video and the live stream. And let's go Giants. Yeah, let's go Giants. Indeed, a week from Sunday, we got football. And don't worry, guys, girls, trying to get that other sponsor back so you can get Chris's ad read. I know everybody enjoyed that. So we're looking forward to that. We're working on it. Let's get to some of these on the legend. There you go. Might need some of that. And like I said, that's why that ad read was so great, because it's true. It's been rough. I feel like this year, though, we might be into clouds for other reasons, honestly. I think they're going to be good. Call me crazy. I've been called worse. SPP Williams, man, thank you so much. Our legendary friend from across the pond where it's 1:45 in the morning. So always appreciate you, my friend. He says, happy collective day. It's always a happy day when Giants Collective is on. Wait till we have –
man, dude, there's not a more loyal fan of this show than him. He donates every show. But aside from that, the time difference. This guy's up at 1 a.m. watching this show. I can't get over how good of a supporter he's been of this show. So we appreciate you for being here, man.
Yeah, those guys are our friends in London across the pond. They're a huge shout out to them because it is late over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, SPP always in the chat. Appreciate you, my friend. George, thank you so much. He says Joe Judge shows up to MetLife to watch Jackson. Bad Dog's in the house. Do we get a Hogan Andre? I don't think I'd be mad at Joe Judge anymore. He's not a Giants coach. That is what it was. I always jokingly, it's not really even jokingly, I feel like my best content in 2021 was because of Joe Judge. Some of my best sound bites were because of Joe Judge. Those are really dark days, man. We have had some bad days as Giants fans, and maybe it's just, hope beyond hope that they are a better team and they're competitive this year. But I just feel like this is totally different. I watched the way they react to one another. I watched the way they celebrate on the field. Like I mentioned last week, they were celebrating a block and a punt return. The energy is so different. Winning will do that, even if it is preseason. So, we'll see if that continues. If they started off 0-2, they're going to have the same type of energy. We'll find out. They're not going to start 0-2, though. Don't worry about it. I really think they're going 2-0. Then, what it is, man. I do. I think we're winning those two games. Micah Parsons ain't with Dallas yet. So
he will be, though. I'd be stunned if he's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be stunned if he maybe he misses the first week. I doubt it, though. I think they get a deal done before.
He should miss at least 2. What do you guys think about McLaurin being signed by the Commanders?
I said it like 3 weeks ago on here when that was like a thing. I said they're going to sign him. I remember I forgot who it was, but we were all talking about where he may be traded. I'm like, he's going to end up back with the Commanders. It's just the thing that players do in the NFL. That's the little leverage that they have against these owners, to especially in a situation like Washington, similar to like what Zeke did when he was with the Dallas Cowboys. You have a team that's trying to compete for a Super Bowl. You're an important piece of that team. Your leverage is to try to hold out leading up into the season, to try to get as much money as you possibly can. We saw 2 49ers receivers do it a couple of years ago with Debo and Ayuk. So, yeah, I'm not surprised at all. But as I told Anthony when I did a thing with him, I still think McLaurin, because of all that time off, not getting any reps with Jaden Daniels in the preseason, probably comes out a little rusty week 1 against the New York Giants. And I think the Giants may very well be able to take advantage of that. Now, you could say the same thing about Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors didn't play in the preseason either, but he was still practicing. He was practicing with the team and developing some chemistry with Russell Wilson. So I do think that there's an opportunity there to take advantage of that for the New York Giants week 1. He's their most important weapon, and I don't think he's going to be near 100%.
I agree with that, and I'll actually build on that. I was looking at the schedule today, and so you've got probably a rusty Terry McLaurin in week 1. Sam Cosmi is also out in week 1, the Washington Commanders starting guard. So Dexter Lawrence and those other guys should feast. Abdul Carter, he likes to rush on the interior a lot. So you're getting a weakened Commanders team in week 1. Week 2, if the Cowboys do trade Micah Parsons, on paper, that might be the worst defense in the NFL. That is an atrocity. I mean, it is really bad. So let's imagine they do trade Micah Parsons. Now you're getting
they won't.
I don't know, dude. There's some weird
cloud, Anthony, but I don't.
All right, well, just walk with me in the clouds for a second. In the clouds. So we could get a weakened Dallas team in week 2 as well without Micah Parsons, and then in week 3, the most important playmaker now in that team's offense is Rashee Rice, and he's suspended and he's out for that game. So, but this is the point that I'm trying to make here is when the schedule released and all Giants fans said, oh, we're not going to win a single game. We're going to win 3 games at the most. And we all on this show said it's a week-to-week league. Everything changes every single week. The teams that you're looking at on paper right now are not going to be the teams that you see when we actually play them. And that is already starting to become a reality. So for this hardest strength of schedule BS, I don't want to hear it. Giants are going to win games this year. They're going to win a lot more games than people expect. And every single time I see one of these little things, Sam Cosmi is out, Micah Parsons may be leaving the division, Rashee Rice out, I'm saying stars might be aligning. Yeah, PW just said in the chat, every game is a winnable game.
You didn't even mention the most important thing that's in favor for the New York Giants for the Kansas City Chiefs game. Travis Kelce just got engaged to Taylor Swift. His mind's on getting married and not being prepared for the New York Giants week 3. That may play to our favor as well, Anthony.
I'll tell you someone's going to play in the favor of the Giants. I mentioned this before, too. Both the Cowboys and the Chiefs play the Eagles the week before they play the Giants. So you want to talk about having a letdown after, you playing the Super Bowl champions. It's easy to look at the Philadelphia Eagles and go, we got to get up for the Eagles. We got to get up for this team. This is the defending champions. Kansas City lost to them in the World Series. Listen to me, in the Super Bowl. So, they want revenge. They're getting up for that game. Dallas and Philadelphia have been fighting for this division for years until, the Commanders got in there last year. So, that's going to be every team in the every game in the NFC East is really tough. These divisional games are really tough. So, I think Dallas is going to be weakened, and I definitely think we can beat Washington. There's no reason I think the Giants can't do this, because everybody's going to sit there, same old Giants. It isn't the same old Giants. So I'm looking forward to it, man. And yeah, if Micah Parsons is traded or he's just not there, whatever the case may be, you look at Dallas' defense, it's terrible. Their defense is bad. It is a really bad unit. So
he'll be there.
Well,
I'm not even getting my hopes up that he's leaving the division.
I don't know. The People's Insider, Ricky, says that there's a massive offer on the table from the Green Bay
Ricky
Packers.
knows.
Ricky knows ball. So
knows all this stuff.
I only went through the first 3 games, and I'm seeing people in the chat saying 3-0 for the Giants, and I like it, but I forgot we have to add that extra wrinkle. Let's go 4-0. How about Rashawn Slater not being out there for the Chargers in week 4? That's a weakened Chargers offensive line versus a great defensive line for the Giants. Maybe 4-0 is a possibility.
And then they play the Saints, where it has no quarterback, right? So they should be 5-0. Can you imagine that? What a hell of a start that would be. That would be pretty incredible if that ever came to fruition. Hey, Chris and Baddog's intern is back. We always say our interns are the best. Not only do they work for free, they actually donate to our cause. We appreciate it. Strap Hyatt to a rocket like Sid from Toy Story was doing in Toys and take the L in the pick. Would rather OBJ or Davis or even Washington as our 4th. I don't know if I'm definitely not that down on Hyatt, but what do you guys think?
No, I'd rather have Hyatt than OBJ at least. And Gabe, at this point, I'd rather have Hyatt than Gabe Davis, because Gabe Davis hasn't been here the entire time. I just feel like it would take at least probably 4 or 5 weeks for Gabe Davis even to get up to speed. I don't think Hyatt's going to work out, like I said, but I still would rather take the gamble that he may find something this year than pick up an old veteran like that. Personally, I know a lot of fans were high on Washington, and some fans are upset about that, but I would put Hyatt above those guys at this point. Now, ask me that in 8 weeks, I'll probably just say screw all of them. We need another wide receiver next year. But if you're asking me going into the year, I would rather have Hyatt than those guys.
Yeah. Montrell Washington's interesting because he provides slot depth where these other guys that the Giants are holding on to don't. Who is the backup slot receiver for the Giants right now? Is it Malik Neighbors, I guess? I mean, is Malik Neighbors going to rotate in, and then you're going to have another guy go out? Like, if Wan'Dale Robinson gets hurt, who's playing out of the slot? I would think it would be Neighbors.
They should put Hyatt in the slot. Hyatt
my God, I've been banging the table.
Why not? Why not try him there? He was most effective at Tennessee in the slot. Why are we not? Because again, Anthony, you might have mentioned this. He's not a physical guy. You're not going to get jammed at the line of scrimmage. You get a free release out of the slot. Why don't they try him there? You try him to a guard, right? Try Hyatt in the slot.
This is the most perplexing thing for me, because when you look at his final season at Tennessee, he had 700 snaps logged in the slot. He was a slot receiver coming out of college. Why has he not taken more than 10 slot snaps during his time with the New York Giants? It perplexes me. I truly don't understand. This is the perfect example of when the Giants take a guy who's a square peg and they try and fit him into a round hole. That's exactly what they've been doing with Jaylen Hyatt. I don't know why they asked him to gain 25 pounds this offseason, kill his speed, get injured because he put on extra weight like most players do when they do that. I don't know. Just put him in the slot and let him do what he does best, which is run a deep post or a shallow crosser. That's all you need to do with him. It's not that hard.
Yeah, especially if you run in a shallow cross and you got a guy like Russ taking him in stride, and he can actually use the speed to run away from the defenders, especially if he gets matched up on a linebacker underneath. There ain't no linebacker going to catch Jaylen Hyatt. So I don't know why they haven't done that either. Maybe they watch a show and they'll say, it's not a bad idea, Anthony. Let's try him. If we see Jaylen Hyatt in the slot this year, we're going to give Anthony credit. We say Anthony made him.
I'm gonna forward the link to this over to Pat Hanlon. And
there you go.
Runs it up to management.
Yeah, we all had run-ins with people, haven't we? Cruz on. Thank you, brother. He says, I don't blame Dolchich for turning down the practice squad with us. I can't believe no one picked him up. He's on the Dolphins practice squad now. Is his blocking that bad?
Well, he's not known for his blocking. And I think the Giants, I think that's a major reason why he ultimately didn't end up making the team. I think they say, okay, well, we already have our non-blocking tight end. We've got Theo Johnson. That's our playmaking tight end. We want to have strong blockers for the running game and pass protection. So they prioritize a guy like Daniel Bellinger. Fedoni's also kind of a younger version of a Dolchich, right? He's a pass catcher. They drafted him. They're obviously going to prioritize him over Dolchich. So, well, Dolchich was certainly one of the 4 best tight ends in preseason. I'm not very surprised he didn't make the team.
Yeah, he's also had some injury issues as well. I don't know when the last time he played a full season was. So again, he looked good, and I thought he could make the team. I thought Bellinger was going to get cut, not because I thought Bellinger was worse than Dolchich, but financially it just seemed to make the most sense. But this just goes back to what we talked about. Joe Schoen does not cut his draft picks. He just doesn't do it.
No, he does not.
He always likes to keep those guys around.
Technically, Corey Black did get waived today, but he's going to be on the practice squad. But yeah. But this is a big moment for Joe Schoen, actually.
Right. The 7th round.
He hasn't done it since the first draft with
another good thing. We don't want him to cut his draft picks. That's a good thing.
Right.
It's a good thing, but also showing a willingness to admit when you're wrong on a draft pick and move on from them, I think is also a good thing. And he hasn't shown that willingness, so to speak, with guys like, I get why they didn't want to give up on Evan Neal, but I don't know. I go back to the report that they received a trade offer on Evan Neal at the deadline last year. Looking back on it, hindsight's always 2020. You never know. Maybe he could have turned into a great guard for us, but I don't think that's going to become a reality at this point. Maybe they should have taken the draft pick. Who knows?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, Evan Neal won't be back next year, obviously. And do you think they sign Wan'Dale? Do you think they're going to does it depend on what he does this year?
No. I don't think they're going to be able to afford him. They don't have a lot of cap space next year as it is right now. They've kind of invested all that money into the defensive line, really, and other places. So I don't think they're going to be able to afford Wan'Dale. And I think if he does have a good year, like we think he will, that price tag is going to get a little bit competitive to where Darius Slayton is at $12 million per season. I don't know if he'll quite get there, but it could get close to there. And then you're talking about $12 million to Slayton, call it 8, 9, 10 million to Wan'Dale, and you've got Malik Neighbors probably on the horizon for 45 a year. So how long term do you really want to lock down any of these receivers? I'm not quite sure.
It depends on his market, but yeah, if he has a market that's north of $10 million a year, I think they're going to go for a guy a weapon on the outside to pair opposite Malik Neighbors. I think that's the goal next year. I think they look to maybe replace Wan'Dale in the draft. Maybe you get a skilled slot receiver in the 2nd or 3rd, 4th round of next year's draft to try to replace Wan'Dale long term. But I don't see them shelling out big money to Wan'Dale. If his market's low and he doesn't have the best of years and he wants to remain a Giant for $5-6 million, that's possible. But if he has a decent year and there's teams willing to give him $10-11 million, I don't see Wan'Dale in the plans for the Giants going forward after this year.
Yep. Yeah, I'll be surprised because I feel like they will draft somebody. And that's what's going to happen. I can't see them paying Wan'Dale all that money because I mentioned this before. I don't remember. I might have talked about this last night on my channel. McLaurin got $32 million a year. He's 30 years old. I mean, Neighbors is better than McLaurin. Neighbors is younger than McLaurin, and every year the cap goes up. So Malik Neighbors, really, I'm like, what's he going to get? 5 years, $225 million. Like that's probably where that receiver money is going to be. Although they probably won't. I can't imagine they would wait.
No, after his 3rd year, he's getting extended, provided he stays healthy. Yeah, because we all said that about Saquon after his 1st year too, and he got hurt. But provided Neighbors stays healthy, he'll be extended after his 3rd year, no doubt about it.
Jason, thank you so much. Appreciate you guys and girls supporting the channel. Says I'm always skeptical giving up on young talent. Banks Hyatt. not too long ago, Giants fans felt Dexter was overdrafted at 17. Now he's an all-pro. It's true. He got off to a bit of a slow start. What do you guys think of that? I mean, they obviously haven't given up on him because they're still on the team, but what do you guys think about it?
Jason, I get it. And I'm very patient with players, and I'm not saying kick Hyatt to the curb. I thought he was, at least it was debatable whether he was going to make the team at one point this preseason, but I wasn't rooting for the Giants to cut him. I just, as a fan, don't think he's going to make it. Now, that doesn't mean he won't. And Evan Neal's, I feel the same way. But overall, I'm traditionally very patient with players. And different players take longer to develop. I'm patient with Deonte Banks, one of the guys you mentioned there. I think a lot of Giants fans are completely out on Deonte Banks. They want to move on from Deonte Banks. They don't want him starting. I've seen people say they want Cordell Flott to start as our cornerback too this year. I don't. I still believe in Deonte Banks' talent. I don't necessarily think he's going to be an elite corner, but I think he could be a good starting corner in the NFL still. I think his coverage is there. He's got to get better ball skills, and a lot of that is instinctual, and maybe he can't put it all together. We're going to find out over the next couple of years, but I think the talent is there for a player like that. I'm far from giving up on Deonte Banks, but Hyatt, I was never the biggest fan of Hyatt to begin with. I liked the pick because everybody had him going in the late first, early second round, 2 weeks leading up into the draft, and I did realize that he had speed, but I was never in love with Jaylen Hyatt. I remember last year, Bad Dog, we did a show going into the year after his first year. We typically do this before the year starts, and I think we talked with the chat who we felt the most overrated player in the team was. I said Jaylen Hyatt after his rookie year. So I've never been the biggest fan of Jaylen Hyatt. I've never saw the aura of a Jaylen Hyatt. I never thought he was going to become a great wide receiver.
PW Cho, thank you so much. He says, I know this is off topic, but can you guys touch on the horse crap narratives about Sanders brothers being set up and how the NFL's out to get him? I'm sick of hearing it, but I want your takes. I'll do this really quickly. The media is what it is. It's why, shows like this thrive, because we don't push things. We give you our opinion. I feel like we're very fair about stuff. They talked about how 4 offensive linemen were cut from that group of guys that was blocking for Shador. He had 8 seconds to throw a ball. He ran backwards. That was a big problem with him in Colorado. He got sacked 94 times or whatever he got sacked. Colorado was his dad setting him up as well. Also, every lineman that blocked for Tommy DeVito against the Patriots was cut. Everyone. He threw for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth.
Yeah, though, you don't even have to switch game. You don't even have to switch the games. You could do that exact game. Every same lineman that got cut for Shador blocked for Huntley. Huntley orchestrated a game-winning drive. And I like Shador. I still like Shador. I still think Shador is going to work out long-term. I think he can be a good quarterback in the NFL. I realize he has flaws to his game. Those were the flaws going into his pro career, that he floated back in the pocket a lot and took a lot of unnecessary sacks, and that was on full display in that game for sure. And he's certainly got to get a lot better at that. That's one thing you could look at. It's as clear as day, at least at this point in their careers, and it's still a very young career. Neither one has even played a regular season snap yet. But between Jackson Dart and Shador Sanders, it's not even close. It's polar opposites in terms of their pocket awareness. Jackson Dart steps up in the pocket. He extends plays. Shador Sanders, that was a red flag of him coming out, and it remains a red flag, especially after that preseason game. But it's preseason. That's for rookies to learn. I think people are overreacting on both sides with Shador, but the narrative that I saw on Twitter, and it's not everybody. I think it's a very small portion of people. It's
just the media is doing it.
The media is a big part of it, and some fans certainly jump on top of it. But the narrative that the coach and the offensive linemen were intentionally not blocking for him or calling bad plays, or they were intentionally putting bad offensive linemen out there to make Shador Sanders look bad is moronic. It's like you don't even know how football works. At the end of the day, it's the 3rd preseason game. He didn't come into the game until the second half. And you make a post and you go nuts that they set him up because 4 of the offensive linemen got cut. 95% of the people on the field in the second half of the 3rd preseason game are getting cut.
On both sides.
I would be willing to bet the entire defensive line on the other side got cut. So it's just a stupid narrative, and people knows it generates clicks and so on and so forth. And I have no ill will towards Sanders. I like Sanders. I hope he works out. But yeah, it's bullshit.
I like him too. I think he'll start by the end of the year. I honestly do. But that floating back in the pocket and that inability to make decisive moves in the pocket and throw the ball reminded me of somebody that was on this team, and that drove me crazy. Hopefully Shador can work his way out of that and become, because if you are hesitant in the NFL, I don't care how good your talent is, you're screwed, man. You can't hesitate, which is the most impressive thing. I remember before game 1, Anthony said it best when he said, "What are we looking for from Jackson Dart?" Anthony said, "I want to see composure and poise in the pocket. I want to see." That's exactly what he shows. He shows his ability to manipulate the pocket and command everything around him. So, but Anthony, what's your take on Shedeur Sanders?
The take on Shedeur Sanders that I have is pretty much the same as you guys. Any narrative that he's being, that somebody's out to get him, that he's being set up to fail, anything like that, it's not true. It's BS. I mean, he's on the Browns roster. They're going to try their best to develop him. He is talented, but he is not capable of being their starter in week 1. Have you seen their schedule? It wouldn't even make sense to put Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders out there for week 1, week 2, week 3, whatever. They need time to sit and to grow. And we all said that about Shedeur anyway. Like, he wasn't a finished product anyway coming out of Colorado. But since this question did ask about the Sanders brothers, I will just give my take on Shiloh Sanders real quick. Shiloh Sanders was not a draftable player. That's why he went undrafted. And for an undrafted player to get into a fist fight in a preseason game and sucker punch somebody, nobody's out to get you but yourself at that point. So that's really all there is with Shiloh Sanders. He's and definitely not somebody I want the Giants to consider. A couple people asked me that in the Fireside Giants live stream today. No, I don't think that should be the safety depth target for the Giants.
The other thing with why would they set him up? Those linemen are trying to make an NFL roster. If they get cut, they want to be picked up by somebody else.
It's just
why would they throw their career away to say, "Oh, go out there and blow all these blocks and look like shit"?
It hurts my brain to even think that some people agree with that statement. Like it makes no sense.
It doesn't.
And I feel like a lot of the members of the media know it makes no sense, but they say it because they know people will gravitate towards it, and it's like a grift.
It's gotta be.
It hurts my brain to even think like that. To think that people agree with that statement.
Yep, that's crazy. JD, thank you so much. Concern with Dex overuse due to lack of defensive tackle depth. No, I think it is what it is. I think it's been the way it is. And outside of last year, I mean, I forgot what his injury was. I think that if the Giants were contending for a playoff spot, he would have been back in there because the year was shot. There was no reason to hurry him back. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think Dex is a freaking beast. Dex is going to be in the running for Defense Player of the Year this year.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about it. I ideally, yeah, I would like more talent on the interior defensive line to go along with Dex. There's a lot of unknowns right now, and we didn't get a whole lot of answers in the preseason with at least some of the younger players of that position. Most notably Darius Alexander, which at least some Giants fans felt was underwhelming. At the end of the day, he's a rookie. I know he's 25 years old though, so maybe you expect a little bit quicker of a start there. But yeah, I mean, maybe a slight concern, but like you said, Baddog, at the end of the day, Dex is our best player. You don't want him off the field too much. But yeah, of course, you always want to have as much depth as possible, especially at that position. A player that big, you want him to be as fresh as possible to close out the games. So I think maybe a minor worry there, but nothing I'm going to go nuts about. But next year, I do think they need to, really try to shore up that interior defensive line next to Dex. I think that needs to be one of their biggest priorities.
Yeah, and I'll say I also have only a slight concern because I think I'll reframe it. Maybe they don't have a ton of interior defensive line depth, but they also don't need him on the field on third downs anymore because they can drop Dexter off and put Chauncey Golston and Abdul Carter on the interior. So they will find ways to give him some breaks here and there. So I'm not overly concerned. Maybe a little concerned, but not overly concerned that he's going to be worn down.
Age 50, thank you, brother. I stayed at the Marriott now because of Hyatt.
Well done. That's a good dad.
What you did there. Love the DW hot takes. Let's go.
Do you know what he means by that? You guys have an idea?
I'm old. I don't know what the hell that means.
That's actually a Fireside Giants inside joke. He was over in the stream earlier today. Thank you, Pharaoh, for tuning into both streams. Have you guys you know who D. Williams, the cornerback on the Giants, right?
Yeah.
You guys ever tried Googling him?
No.
You might be surprised what you find.
No.
Actually, now that you mentioned, I don't know if it was him, but somebody on my Twitter mentioned they looked up somebody's name on the Giants and like a child molester came up as the most searched name. Is that what it is with?
No, that's not D. Williams. D. Williams, it's a lady actress for adult films.
Oh, I was gonna say, okay.
Okay. All right. There's nothing wrong with that.
Lang, thank you so much. Terry is still cooking Banks, rust or no rust. That's great. Banks won't be covering Terry McLaurin. Paulson and Debo will. So we got to worry about that matchup. You got to know you got to know what you're dealing with here. This is not the Giants from last year at all. SPP, thank you so much. Again, 1:10 in the morning over there to our guy across the pond. You guys think of a wide receiver who is bad like Hyatt, then became great. Quarterbacks, defensive tackles, safety, lots of positions need to learn. Maybe wide receiver is more about raw talent. I can't think of one offhand that got off to really.
I can't think of one offhand, but I will say the raw talent part, that's true. If you actually look at the top wide receivers in the NFL, the relative athletic score for those guys is all super high. Like the best athletes at that position are the best players at that position. There is certainly correlation there.
I gotta think here, SP. I'm gonna get back to you on that. So basically the question is, think of a wide receiver who was either really bad or not really utilized very much for the first 2 or 3 years of his career and then became great. I'm sure I could come up with a name or two, but it's hard to find. It's hard to think of. Yeah. I'll get back to you on that.
Bob, thank you, brother. Just purchased NFL Sunday tickets, so I won't miss any Giants games this season. We're going to be fun to watch and competitive. Go Big Blue. Well, we're going to win some games. We're going to take some people by surprise.
Let's go.
Takes one. Oh, by the way, I wanted to say this. You guys know, well, Chris, you definitely know, I'm all about numbers. You know this. So I've mentioned before how the Giants were really bad when I was born, and they won a Super Bowl by the time I was 11. Now my kid, is going to be 11 in 2028. So the reason you're going to see the Giants win the Super Bowl in 2028, and I'd love to win it before, is this. Jameis Winston's number plus Jackson Dart's plus Russell Wilson equals 28. I just want you to know that. So
Baddog just solved the case.
We were in the playoffs a couple years before he won in 86. So we're going to make the playoffs, but then they're going to take that monumental leap and they're going to get there because it's in the numbers.
Darksey brings up a name. I don't think he qualifies. I get that he wasn't great his first couple years in the league, but Antonio Brown was like a 5th or 6th round wide receiver. So he was a guy that you would expect would take 2 or 3 years to emerge in the NFL. I think the question was more so a guy that you expect to make an immediate impact or a near immediate impact and took 2 or 3. Amani Toomer's a good one. I saw somebody mention him. Yeah. Amani Toomer was a very early 2nd round pick. Early on in his career, he was more or less a return guy, right? And then about year 3 is where he started to elevate his game. Amani Toomer's not a bad one. I don't necessarily think Jaylen Hyatt's going to become that, but that's not a bad one.
That'd be amazing if we could become half of what Amani Toomer. Jason, thank you, brother. NFL cap is a myth. Dart's on a rookie contract. Winston is on a cheap deal. They'll be able to sign whomever they want. In my opinion, money can always be moved. Well, the Eagles do it all the damn time. They have endless amounts of money. So it's just about Joe. Well, Joe Shea might extend some guys next year. I'm sure he will. And then you can move the money around. So they'll find a way. But I really do believe all of their resources, or most of them, are going to the offensive side of the football. I will be shocked if we don't see 2 linemen come in here. I'm not saying necessarily starters, but Linderbaum isn't going to say. I mean, go get that guy, please. Chris, you and I both wanted to draft Linderbaum.
I think a lot of Giants fans did that year.
Go out and get him and add a wide receiver, and let's go.
So I don't agree with the statement the NFL cap is a myth, but the NFL cap is easily manipulated. And when you're once you get your quarterback, which the Giants haven't had, they haven't had a quarterback that they had blind faith in. They had moderate faith in Daniel Jones. They gave him that 2-year extension as they continue to build the team. But if they had blind faith, they would have given him a Jalen Hurts contract. They would have backloaded the hell out of it and said, we know you're a franchise quarterback. We got nothing to worry about there. We know you're not going to fold after 5 or 6 years. When you have that as an NFL organization, that's when you could do whatever you want. You could backload contracts to the moon because you know you got your quarterback in place and you're going to try to capitalize on having him at a young age to try to win a Super Bowl. So once you get that franchise quarterback, I agree. That's when you do whatever you have to do to build a Super Bowl roster. And that's why quarterback is king in the NFL. And we all know that.
True. Well, with that said, that brings us to the close of another edition of Giants Collective. As always, we appreciate you guys and girls tuning in again. If you haven't done so, hit the thumbs up. It helps us out a lot. If you like the show, make sure you subscribe. We do it twice a week. Big shout out to SeatGeek for sponsoring the show. As always, use that promo code Giants Collective down there in the description. You get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to become a member, just click the join button, and you can follow Giants Collective on Instagram and TikTok. So with that said, for Anthony and Entertainah, it's Bad Diggity Dizzle. Enjoy the rest of your hump day. We'll see you soon, and we out. Peace.